I challenged my friend to see who could make the better custom LEGO build using only the pieces from 3 specific LEGO sets. Over the past few years, I've been doing LEGO building challenges on this channel. I've tried to make new builds using only the parts from certain LEGO sets, and I've had a ton of fun doing it. Some I'd consider successes, others a lot less so, but in all of them, the challenge has always been just for me. They've been to test my own building abilities and see what I could do with only a limited parts selection. But now, for the first time ever, it's not just me. My buddy Matthew recently came to visit me, and we thought it would be fun to challenge each other to each build something new only using the parts from the same few LEGO sets. The sets we decided on were Egalt the Master Dragon and Kai's Mech from Ninjago, as well as the LEGO creator Space Astronaut. Now you may be wondering why these sets in particular. Well, in case you didn't know, I set a goal for myself earlier this year to make a custom build using every single Ninjago set released this year. And these are 2 that I haven't used yet. And then me and Matthew picked out one final set outside of Ninjago to add to the challenge, and that was the Space Astronaut, because we thought a LEGO creator set would have some really good just basic bricks for building, and the color scheme matched the other sets pretty well, using a lot of white as well as a bit of black, a bit of red, and some gold. The LEGO Ambassador Network was kind enough to provide the sets for use in this video, but of course the custom builds, the idea behind the challenge, and any opinions expressed are completely our own. And finally, because this is a competition, it's up to you guys to pick the winner. So after you see both builds, make sure to leave a comment letting me know which one is your favorite, and stay tuned because in a couple of days I'll put a poll in my community tab, and you guys can also vote for the winner there. And finally, before Matthew and I show off our builds, I want to quickly ask you guys to please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. This was a very fun video to make, but unfortunately Matthew and I don't live near each other at all. We have to travel to visit. So if you enjoy this video, supporting it will help enable us to hopefully do more things like this in the future. Liking and subscribing also helps to put my videos in your feed more often, and just does a ton to help support me and the channel in general. So thank you all very much for your support, and now let me show you the final results. So first we'll take a look at my custom build, and you can see I built this like bipedal mech-like body for Egalt. I was conceptualizing it as a mech, but it's not really a mech because there's not really a spot to fit a minifigure. There's kind of one, but it's not the best implementation. I'll show you that when I get up close. But yeah, when I was looking at the sets we had available to us, I was just thinking that mech is probably the best option. Obviously, Kai's Mech is a mech, so there's a lot of mech pieces in there. Egalt isn't a mech, but he had joints and stuff that would be very useful for a build like this. And then the astronaut also has movable limbs. So with that in mind, I did think mech was the best option. But as you'll see with Matthew's build in a moment, it definitely wasn't the only option. But then also, of course, if you guys know my channel at all, you'll know I do a lot of mech stuff. I'm not a super experienced builder, and so far it's what I know the best. So I thought it'd be fun to try it here, and I think it turned out fairly decent. The parts that we used in this challenge were a bit difficult to work with because a lot of them were very specialized. I thought because we had 3 big sets, like there'd be a lot of options, but despite having like a huge range of parts on the table when I was building, I constantly was not able to find specific pieces that I wanted for my build. All that being said, I think the end result turned out pretty cool, so let's take a look at it up closer. The feet are nothing too crazy. I have like little talons at the front to keep with like the dragon theming. I think it was fun how I was able to use these white pieces at the front because those have like the anti-studs on the back of them, and I've never really been able to use that connection. But yeah, you could say I put a plate underneath and that combined with this piece. It helped raise the rest of the foot up a little bit, and I think it turned out pretty cool. Then the actual legs I built in 2 sections, and that's because it was very important to me that this build had knees. As I said, I do a lot of mechs on this channel, but I've never built a mech with knees, so I thought it'd be fun to challenge myself to do that. And I knew in the sets I was using I definitely had the parts for it. And yeah, I think this turned out pretty good. The lower leg can move forward a little bit as well as bend back, and then there's a little bit of side-to-side motion, but not a ton. And I'm fairly happy with the shaping of the lower section down here. It's not perfect, but I think it looks good enough. It's like somewhat cartoony and rounded. But then on the upper leg I used the SCCDS armor piece, though with a lot of texturing on it, such as the Master of the Mountain armor piece on one side, and a few more bricks to extend it out at the center. And around the back it is anti-studs, which isn't the prettiest, but for a build like this I think that's fine. Now when I first connected the legs to the body, I thought the joints looked really ugly, and they probably are still the ugliest part of the build. But I did a simple little skirt build to cover them up a bit. That's something we see in a lot of official mechs, and this isn't like the most interesting way to do that, but I do quite like how I made the armor flow from the body into the legs. And the skirt piece hangs a little loosely so it can move with the legs when you pose it. I wanted the bottom half of this build to be more red, using parts from Kai's Mech to be like pants that Egalt's wearing, so I used more of the black and white in the torso and in the arms, as well as some dark red to transition from the black into the regular red. I've got these like really long parts of the armor at the chest and the shoulders. I just thought that looked kind of cool. I don't know, it was a unique silhouette. It was one of the first things I did, and I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool, I think I'll keep it. And I think that flows well with the arms. The arms themselves are done similarly to the elemental power mechs. You can see there's an SCCBS armor piece in here in black that comes from the Egalt set, as well as SCCBS joints in both black and white. The white comes from Egalt, but the black's actually from the Climber Mech, and I think it's really cool I was able to use that as a part of Egalt's color scheme. There's some of these fur pieces here for texturing too, and I bring a little bit of the dark tan over at the wrist and the hand. That ties the color scheme in with the wings at the back, and I feel like just adds some more dimension to the build by having another color in here, but it's not like all throughout, it's only in this one little section. And then in terms of weapons, I've got him holding the hooks from the Climber Mech. These are just super cool parts, and I feel like they fit this guy well. Then of course there's Egalt's wings in the back, which were a last minute addition, but I'm really glad I added them. I feel like they make the build seem a lot more complete, and they do have posability to them too, you can move them around. And then finally, Egalt's build is pretty much the same from the set. I've got a little bit of red in here to tie together the color scheme, and he no longer has his beard that hangs down at the chin, but I did keep the hat the same because the hat's like the coolest part of the design. This connects on with the ball joint. I used like this wheel piece for the neck because I feel like that looks somewhat organic when you look at it from the side. But yeah, the head's able to move back and forth, and you can also open the jaw if you want. And then you may notice this one little gap right here, and that's the mech functionality that I talked about. That's almost the perfect size to fit a minifigure's legs. It does push the bricks out a little bit, but honestly not too much. So if you really wanted to, you could have a character in there, but then Egalt's just looking straight up, and that's a little bit janky. And the minifigure itself doesn't seem super comfortable either. Alternatively, you can turn Egalt's head all the way around, which honestly might be the better option. But yeah, as I said, that's really only there to be an optional bonus thing. The intended way to display this guy is with the head facing forward and no minifigure on it, and I think this by far looks the best. Talking posability, I think it's decent for what this is. It's definitely not the most stable build in the world because the feet are so small and they connect on ball joints. But hey, I mean, I've got it standing up on one foot right now. It would probably fall over if I shook the table, but it is able to balance itself, so that's something at least. And I did try to include quite a few points of articulation. Obviously the knees were the most important thing, but then there's still the legs, the waist, the feet. The arms move individually as well as the hands, and then of course the wings and the head as well. The wings can make things a little bit difficult to post sometimes, but because they can be moved, they can also be moved out of the way. Overall though, I think the knees are definitely my favorite part. They add a lot of personality to the build that it wouldn't have otherwise. And I think I'll wrap things up here. That's all for my custom build. So now I'll let Matthew take over and talk to you about what he made.
Hello everyone, it is me, Matthew, and I will be showing you my building challenge build. So for this one I wanted to build a spaceship. I'm a big fan of the game No Man's Sky, and I kind of wanted to build something based on one of my spaceships from that, and it proved to be a lot more of a challenge than I expected it to be. I had planned this out a lot in my head before we actually started the building challenge because, I mean, I knew what the sets were going to be. However, to my surprise, the pieces from the three sets did not work very well together, and I found I didn't really use the Kai Climber Mech as much as I expected to. That one really did not have very many useful pieces. There is some, I'll get more into the interior at some point, but there's a good bit of the red and the weird pieces from that one on the interior here that I just used for structure, but primarily I used Egalt the Master Dragon, and the Spaceman for this one. But that's just kind of the nature of the pieces of those sets that really didn't work super well together, but I'm very happy with how this ended up coming out. So, just some general things about this. I was able to put landing gear on there that can actually hold the weight of the vehicle. I feel like if this was something I was just building, not in a building challenge, I probably would have made more structurally supportive landing gear. But I am happy with the way that came out. You're able to articulate the wings here. I don't know if Sean will be able to show a picture of generally what this looks like in the game that I was basing this on, but I'll send one to him, so maybe he will. But there are little simulated engines here. These would be the engines in the game. And on this spaceship, it has a kind of Osprey helicopter-esque design here, or I think it's also pretty similar to the Avatar helicopter. Then this was a really fun parts usage. I used the bottom of Egalt's jaw as the tail on this thing, and I'm really happy with how that came out. It just feels very smooth, and it comes together well, and I think the fins on the back here also bring that together nicely. And then on the wings here I used Evo joints, and that was kind of why I wanted to build this ship in the first place, because I personally really enjoy building spaceships. So I wanted to find a way to incorporate Evo joints into something like this, and I'm really happy with how the angles worked, and I just think the geometry here is very satisfying. They're really good pieces for building outside of just Evo mechs, which is surprising, but I mean, not really surprising because it's LEGO and it should be useful in other ways. But then moving on kind of towards the top and front of the ship, I just did this for some detail. It isn't really supposed to be anything specific. I just didn't want it to be completely flat on top, because that was kind of one of the big challenges of this. I wanted it to be a lot bigger than it was, and you know, it was almost, I think, $150 worth of Lego sets. I was really expecting it to be able to be a lot bigger, but unfortunately there weren't a lot of like normal system pieces between the 3 sets that let me build this up bigger, so it is smaller than I wanted it to be. Originally when we started, I think I had this front slope being like an angled plate, and it was much larger, so I did have to scale this down a lot, but I am still happy with how it came out. Around the wings, just to frame it a little bit, I used these gold pieces here and some wheel rims. I don't even know where those came from originally, but I think it came out quite nice. And then moving on to the cockpit, we've got Sora sitting in there, but then as you can see, I was able to kind of make like a little bit of a simulated interior, and I don't even know what set that's from, but I got a control panel in here. And I'm really happy with how this part came out. It looks like, you know, a minifigure would be comfortable in there, which is kind of the goal, I feel like. And they fit in there really nicely, especially with the armor. I wanted it to also be able to accommodate the modern space minifigures from LEGO City, so I made the seat, I think it's like 2.5 wide, so it can have a minifigure with a backpack, so really any Ninjago minifigure I think could sit in here. I don't really know why they'd be going to space, but you know, they can if they want to. And then, yeah, that's about it for this one. I just did some normal basic greebling around the front, but I feel like if I was not building this in the context of a building challenge, I could have done a lot better with this one, but I mean, that's the fun of a building challenge. I'm pretty happy with how this came out, though. But yeah, that's that. Thank you.
And there we go, there is both custom builds, my custom Egalt mech and Matthew's custom spaceship. As I mentioned earlier, make sure to let us know in the comments which of the 2 builds you prefer, and who do you think won the building challenge. And if you enjoyed this video, stay tuned, because Matthew and I actually filmed a second similar video while he was here, and that'll be coming in the next few weeks. Thank you very much to Matthew for participating in this. I'll have his Instagram and his YouTube linked in the description below if you want to go check him out. And as for this video, I think that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!